Hey everybody, welcome to episode 19 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
And I'm Ron. Merry Christmas.
Yep, the week before Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
We hope everybody's doing good. And last week I guess was an interesting show. I sort of felt like we got, I don't want to say it was negative, but I felt like this week we want to be positive.
Okay.
So we'll try to find some fun and interesting things to talk about. I have some questions for you, Ron.
Okay.
Some historical questions. A lot of people like to hear those, and I think that's always the fun part of the show, where we can talk about the past and kind of learn things and educate people who might not have raced back then.
Sure.
So, all right. So we also have a brand new twist to our race results segment, which I'm looking forward to seeing this, see how this works out. So are you ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Let's do it.
Ta-da. So we have our race results from last weekend. And first up, the OCC, the Ohio Challenge Cup Series, which is a flexi-car series, was at Northeast Raceway up by Erie, Pennsylvania. And in the GT1B class, Dennis Domney there in the center with the Niagara Posse shirt on was your winner. On the left, Danny Shirey was second, and then Bud Denning was third. In the GT1A class, Dan Ebert in the center was the winner, with Eric Shirey second, Jim Verga third. I don't know what Jim's looking at, but he's looking down at his car and his little plate there, I guess. LMP Group 10, Eric Shirey was the winner, with Dennis Domney second and Jim Verga third. And GTP, Eric Shirey was the big winner, with Jim Verga second and Dan Ebert third. The Triangle Slot Racers Association was at Hobby Max in Durham, North Carolina for their annual Flexi Showdown race. In an LMP, Bobby Beachman was the winner, with Mike Parker second, Shane Parent third. In the stock car class, Matty Haynes in the center was your winner, followed by Nick Brantley, and Russell Martin was third.
Okay, time out. I see looks like the winners are holding some sort of certificate from Massetti. Any idea what that's about?
I know that Mazzetti donated some stuff, or I thought maybe he sent stuff down, but apparently he must have just told someone to make up some certificates, or maybe he sent the certificates, but yeah, he donated some race prizes.
Okay, so they looked like they had some kind of value on them, so I guess you get like a...
Well, I think there's some envelopes. The envelopes, I think, are the race winnings. I don't know if it was track bucks or some kind of cash or what, but
okay.
So
Well, go back to Bobby's picture.
Go back to Bobby's picture. We can do that.
If we have the technology. This is something Massetti Racing, $50, like Massetti Racing merchandise or something.
Okay. So then
I guess maybe they got some Massetti bucks to they can spend with him direct, I guess.
There you go.
Cool. Okay.
That's it. So, speeding right along. And
that was very nice of him, by the way.
Yes, it was. And then in GTP, Nick Brantley in the center was your winner. Russ Martin was second. And Bobby Beachman, again, was third. And then I think what was interesting about this race was that Nick and Russ was on the same lap about 20 feet apart at the end of the...
Yeah, they might have even been less than 20 feet apart. It was pretty close.
I seen a picture posted.
Like a segment or two, yeah.
Yeah, I should have probably used that photo in this little talk about that, but oh well, next time. All right. The Mid-American Hard Body Slot Car Club was at Thaser Raceway in South Bend, Indiana. In the super stock class, in the A main, John Miller there in the center was the winner. J.P. Milcherska on the right was second, and Rick Stagan was third. But that's not the whole story, because Dennis Clark won the B main, and overall, Dennis finished second. So there was no photo of that overall podium, but The overall finish was John Miller first, Dennis Clark second, and J.P. Milcherska was third. In the pony stock class, you had Austin Milcherska winner, Zach Grady second, and John Miller third. And then in the hobby stock class, which is the new class with the Pro Slot 4001 motor with the purple seal, and they use older and kind of longer bodies.
I liked Austin's shirt there. It said cleverly disguised as a responsible adult.
There you go. In hobby stock, the winner was Dave Solomon with Mike Wanino second and Fred Fowler there in third. The Pin Jersey NASCAR Series, don't have any podium pictures from those guys. In the Xfinity class, Matt Bruce was your winner, followed by Jerry Herbert Jr. and Jimmy Roselli. And that race was at Dom's Raceway in New Jersey. And if anybody knows a little bit of history, when the Retro East Series started, they ran some of their races at Dom's house. The track is in the basement. It's an old American hill climb that's had the crossovers removed, and
that's got to be a big basement.
Yeah, I think I read this was the first race at Dom's in like 4 years. So hopefully he'll have more. And then in the Cup class, Jerry Herbert Jr. was your winner, followed by Matt Bruce and Mike Isles, who I guess has recovered from his flip in his midget car, but good to see Mike racing. AWRA was at Kingston Speedway in Anderson, Alabama. And these three gentlemen, Lauren Lindsay and Danny Libecki and Rob Rose, they were the top three in both Legends and stock car classes that was raced.
Wow, check out those model kits, dude.
Yeah, that's the real tiny little track that's, I guess, probably in some kind of like little garage or shed and on a piece of property. And yeah, it's quite a little step back in time from photos I've seen. So it's pretty cool little man cave, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, a couple weeks ago, we talked about the Shinoda reunion race. We had Elliot on the show, and he showed cars and talked about it. So they had their, I believe this was the second annual reunion at Downriver Speedway in Lincoln Park, Michigan. And, they had a lot of cool cars there and stuff. And in the 1968 period correct class, Gene Adams was the winner, Elliott was second, and Bob Manzetti was third. And then in the unlimited class, you had Rick Davis. Remember Rick Davis?
I do.
Okay.
Good to see Rick at track again.
Yeah, it was good to see Rick Davis at the track.
I've seen him in a while.
So he won the unlimited class with Elliott second and Richard T was third. And Rich kind of stayed home that last weekend and didn't come to the BRS race, which was at Mark's Model World in Canton, Ohio. And in the Retro Angle Winder class, Jeff Middaugh in the center was your winner, with Ralph Middaugh second on the left, and then Dave Dorschek was third. And then in the Can-Am and F1 classes, it was the same podium. Willie Custer was the winner of both races, with Greg Fox second in both races, and Rick Bernardo Jr. third. So that was the race results from last weekend.
Well, I thought I was a graphics guy on the show, but I was pretty impressed. That was a good job. I like that.
Well, we're still waiting for some how-to videos from you, and I didn't want to burden your workload.
No, okay, yeah.
It was something that's kind of a feature of this deal we use, and so I sat down, I guess yesterday, and played for a half hour, and
cool. Yeah, no, I like it. It's awesome.
So hopefully
livens up the race results.
Well, and I think it can liven up other parts of the show, and if we utilize it, but I'm sure there'll be mistakes made. But you can blame me, but we'll just see what happens. Because you can do the same thing on your end, I think, but we'll figure that out later.
Yeah, I've just never dug into the program that much, I guess.
Right. So, and another tidbit of news, it looks like P.A. Watson down with his raceway in Houston, Texas, is putting in a drag strip.
Okay.
I've seen a picture of a drag strip under construction. So it looks like some some more drag racing is coming to the state of Texas, and I guess more specifically the city of Houston or the Houston area.
Yeah.
So
Cool. That's cool to see.
yeah,
I mean, that's something that I know we've touched on here or there, but I mean the number of tracks opening up or expanding seems to be like it's definitely is outweighing the number of raceways closing.
right.
You know? And
It
this
seems
is
that way.
yeah, it seems like this has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. So I think that's a really really cool trend to see.
Right.
You know,
So,
seems like whenever a track closes, it seems like it gets more attention than something does when a track opens up. You know.
well, and then like last week there was, I think it was last week, there was a post about an old American Regal track for sale. It's out in Seattle or somewhere out in Washington, I think, for sale, and it's a piece of history, and that definitely was some people were interested in that. And then I think it was yesterday they posted Swoopy King track, Punch Bowl King track for sale, North Carolina, $750.
So with that track you were talking about kind of popping up for sale, and then recently, Matt Sheldon picked up a couple original American tracks. The first track I ever raced on is a piece of history because it's a 220-foot Engelman with hills
Right.
and S's, and as far as anybody knows, I mean, there's no other track like that survived.
No, I mean, well, okay. First of all, is that track an Engelman or is it an Alltech track?
It's an Engelman.
Okay.
It is an Engelman.
Okay.
So, but it was built in the 60s or 70s. So, my question to you, Mr. Historian, is what is the first track you ever raced on?
First track I ever raced on was an American Yellow, or otherwise known as a Windsor track.
Windsor, right?
And it's an 80-foot track, straightaway. I think a 10-degree bank down a short chute into the S turns. You come out of the S turns, you go under the bridge up to Donut, across the bridge to the top turn, and back down the straightaway.
Now, the only Windsor I raced on, you actually went down the donut.
Well, they were running it the backwards direction then.
But the cars were going to the right through the bank.
See, on a Windsor, you go to the left into the bank, down the straightaway to your left into the bank.
Okay.
Into the S's.
Okay.
So, American Raceways, they started building tracks, the best I can tell, in 1962, probably late 62.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first two models were the Windsor and the Regal, which was more of to me, we always called our Regal a road course. We just called it the road course, but it was an American Regal. Now, the Regal, you did run down the donut. Okay, so you went from your right to the left, and then you went down the donut, and that track was completely flat.
Right. Yeah, I've never raced on a Regal, but I've run quite a bit on a Royal.
Well, Royal is the same thing, except
banked.
Right, you got kind of a bank top turn a little bit, and the S section, as they would call it, is banked. And
Right.
It's more like a mini King. And a Regal, in a way, is a mini King when you look at it.
Right.
But it's all flat. But they run the Regal, they run the opposite direction of a King. So when the Royal come out, and this is an age-old argument, which direction did you run it? I think, and when you look at the American Raceway drawings of the track, they designed it to run it just like the Regal, backwards of a King track. So It would have been, down the donut. But I think at some point, somebody said, no, we need to run the track the direction of the King track, and they ran it that way. So, and if you look at, I've seen various Regal tracks, or not Regals, Royals. Buzzy's is one, for example, because you can go on YouTube and look up some of the videos from Buzzy's Raceway in New York. His Royal was built to run the opposite direction of the king track because of where the panels are where you hook up. If you've ever noticed on American Raceway tracks, the driver station closest to the top turn, or what would be the top turn, or the turn leading onto the straightaway,
It's always red.
It's always red.
Yeah, right.
And at the end is black.
Black.
So like on Buzzy's Royal, black is at the end of the straightaway, where red is coming off the S onto the straightaway. When you go to Fast Tracks in Fremont on their Royal, red is coming off the top turn and black's at the end of the straightaway in the direction of the king track.
Yeah, see, I like it when red is all the way to the left of the panel. That's kind of how I prefer it, personally.
So are you saying on a king track you would rather have red where black is?
Yes.
Okay. And I've raced on what we call reverse panel tracks. And I think I like black better because you definitely see your car better in the donut if you're on a king track versus at the end of the straightaway. But then red can sometimes be a little difficult coming off or around the top turn down the straightaway. So
Right.
Some people can't stand to run a reverse panel track, but it's never really bothered me. I mean, and then, you know, another thing, because you've been to both tracks, like if you go to Tom Thumb in Columbus and you race on their American King, and then if you ever went to Route 93 and ran on their American King, Tom Thumb has the whole panel in the correct location.
Right.
And Route 93,
you like move down.
Where you stand on red lanes, where you'd be like standing on green lane or orange lane.
That was so weird. The first time I went there, I'm like,
right.
I'm like, wow. I feel like I'm like almost in the bank. Like, it was. I mean, I got used to it, but it was just that's one thing I noticed right away.
But it puts the whole track in a different perspective.
Different perspective. It completely changes it. It really does.
So anyway, so basically, you know, I think. You know, the question, going back to American Raceways, the question always is which track was the most popular? And I believe that the orange track, or the Monarch, probably the most popular of all the tracks. Because I know when I started racing, there was way more oranges around than there was other tracks. And no one has any idea how many Kings were built, how many oranges were built, how many Regals. It's just unknown history that, you know, that should have been all researched back in the 70s or the 80s. And if we'd have had the internet back then, maybe we would have learned more or tracked people down. Because I'm sure that I'm sure that most people that worked at American Raceways is probably now deceased. Just because of what age they had to be back in the 60s, and, you know.
See, to me, I always thought what made the orange so popular is that it was an easy track.
Fairly.
It kind of still had the S's.
Yeah.
You know, if it had the S's.
Right.
And so that it was a challenge, but it was easy.
Right.
But it also didn't take up a lot of space. So, you know, it was easier to put one in.
Right. Well, it was a footprint deal. I mean, it took up a smaller footprint than most of the other tracks. So, I mean, like, okay, of all the American Raceway tracks, I mean, there was the Figure 8, which they called the Liberty, and if it was a deluxe model, it had green Formica. It was just a simple Figure 8 track.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I ran on one of those one time, and I got to believe that track's still in Florida somewhere in storage, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's long gone. But and then you had the 80-foot Windsor. And then you had the Regal, and then you had the orange, and then you had the red. And then like in late 65, 66, American came out with the Regal, or the Royal, which was the banked, and the Hill Climb, or the Aristocrat, the Blue King, the Purple Mile, the Sovereign, and the Emperor, which was yellow, which there was only 4 of those made according to history.
How many Purple Miles were there made? There wasn't a lot of those either, right?
No, I don't know. I'm gonna say just doing a little bit of limited research in the past, maybe 8 or 10.
And we only know of one that exists, and that's in Massachusetts, right?
Yep, that's at Ashland at Hobbyville. And that's, they've got the
Modelville.
Modelville. What did I say? Did I say something different?
Hobbyville.
Oh, Hobbyville. I was thinking, yeah. Anyway, Modelville Hobby.
There you go.
That's where I got it all messed up. It's not hobbies, it's hobby. And, they have the Purple Mile there. They have a beautiful restored hill climb. Nicest American hill climb I've ever run on. And then they have a really nice restored Royal, which we do run what I call backwards. We run down the donut. And, it's kind of weird, like if, because I go to Fremont Fast Tracks a few times a year and run the direction of the King Track. And then I've been out to Modelville a couple of times and run it backwards. But, I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's a little different. If you never ran on one and you went and ran on one either direction, you'd be like, okay, this is cool. But when you run them different directions, the same track in the course of a year, it's like, wow, this is different. But
so, so American Raceways.
Yep.
Was basically you could buy it was like a franchise essentially.
Well,
Wasn't it involved somehow in the with AMF bowling lanes?
Okay. So, yes and no.
Okay.
American Raceways, I never seen any proof of them selling franchises. Okay, like I never seen any literature. I've got tons of American literature, and I never seen anything where, you can buy a franchise. Okay, I think a lot of people think because a lot of raceways back in the 60s were called Tom Thumb, that was the franchise. But see, Tom Thumb.
Where did that come from?
Well, if you ever researched Tom Thumb, like if you did a Google search on the origins of Tom Thumb was always this little small character, like cartoon type character. So there was a lot of Tom Thumb things in the 60s that wasn't just slot cars. There might be Tom Thumb Putt Putt or Tom Thumb Bowling Alley, or Tom Thumb was just like this little character that a lot of people picked up on. So, but, I was told one time that, American Raceways might go to a town and open a raceway. They go rent a building, fill it up with tracks. Business is booming. People would come in, and somebody might say, "Hey, I think I might want to open one of these raceways. Looks like you're making pretty good money." And they would say, "Oh, you could buy this," and American would then sell it lock, stock, and barrel to the new owner and leave town. But again, I don't have any proof on that. That's just something I was told by a knowledgeable person in the industry. But again, no proof. So American basically sold tracks and power supplies. And
so how did that relate to the AMF bowling lanes?
Okay, so American Raceways in around sometime in 1966, best I can figure out, just going through old magazine articles and stuff. American Raceways sold AMF in Europe a license that would allow American Raceway tracks to be copied and manufactured in Europe, and then shipped to everywhere in the world except for North America and Canada and Mexico.
Okay.
So, 1966, we're talking, a boom, okay? And Americans they're making tracks as fast as they can. So from 62 up until sometime in 66, things are going great for them. They're making tracks quicker, selling them quicker than they can make them. They shipped from two facilities. One was in California, another one was in Chicago. So there was two contract shops building these tracks and then shipping them to wherever the buyer was.
Okay.
So they sell a license to AMF because AMF sees where a way, we can make these tracks in Europe. You wouldn't have shipping cost of tracks from America to Europe or other countries. Right. And, the thing is, like, I don't even know if at the time, if American could have been backlogged so much, maybe they couldn't make enough tracks to supply Europe. So we'll sell AMF this license, and they can make the tracks over there and ship them elsewhere in the world. So, but by the end of 67, American's pretty much out of business because you had so many tracks that opened and closed so quickly. There was a glut of used tracks available all around the country. So if let's just say you were in Atlanta, Georgia, and this raceway opened in 65 and had all American tracks, chances are they were probably going out of business come 67. So why would you call American and get new tracks when you've got some tracks right there you can buy?
Right.
So I think, that's ultimately what took out American was there was just a glut of used tracks.
So you have all these American tracks. They're kind of popping up for sale. And you have a lot of people who, are deciding, okay, I might buy a couple of these and try it out,
Right.
Over time, the tracks get recycled and relocated and lost or destroyed or whatever. So eventually, at some point, there was a need for somebody to make tracks. So, I'm assuming that's where guys like Erding and Ogilvy and Hossey came in.
Yeah, sure. Well, just to finish up the 60s thing, like you said, you raced on an Engelman track.
Right.
Well, in the 60s, you not only had American, you had Alltech, which made tracks, and Stan Engelman worked for Alltech.
Okay.
And sometime he left Alltech and created Engelman tracks. And then, there was a whole bunch, and we can do this on another show, but there was other track builders as well in the 60s, not just American. There was
the only Alltech that I know of even up is in Pennsylvania right now. Are there any others?
Not that I'm aware of. And the last known Engelmans, the last known Engelman I know of that's still up and running would be down in San Antonio at Jim Honeycutt's Raceway. And prior to that, you had the
I know there's some in storage, but
you had the Engelmans that were Elmsford Raceway too. So, they're no longer in operation, but I'm sure those tracks are in storage because I don't know. I haven't heard of anybody buying them. So,
right.
So then, I guess, there was no real track builders until sometime in the mid to late 70s when Hasse Nilsson, Sweden, decided to build a track, basically a copy of an American King. I don't know how much of a copy it was, but, he built, as far as I know, like a new modern King track.
But to me, Hossey was known for his Kings and his paper clips.
Well, right. Well, Hossey started with King tracks, and then he was brought over here, or he came over here, and he started building tracks around the country. And he built, I guess probably any type of track you wanted. But I believe he was the one who came up with the paper clip design and possibly the Kingelman, which was kind of in between a King and an Engelman, which I really don't see much of a resemblance. To me, it's more of an Engelman than any kind of
right.
a King.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So anyway, Hossey built, lots of very fast King tracks in the early to mid 80s. And, it's kind of a funny story, like, and then at some point, Hossey was building tracks out of Oklahoma for Eagle Distributing, and Eagle had like a franchise thing going, and Hossey built all the tracks. And so then, funny story, Steve Ogilvy used to come. I don't remember what company he worked for, but he would come to Fort Wayne. When I was still there and racing at the local track there in Fort Wayne, and we had an old American Orange track. And Steve would come to Fort Wayne to go to, I think, Phelps Dodge Wire Company, or he had some business in Fort Wayne. And
okay,
he was a casual slot racer back home, racing in a club, I believe, somewhere in Canada. And he would come here and race. He was a super nice guy, and he was saying how he was going to build a track, and And then the next visit, it was like, well, we built this track and it's really nice. And he went on and on. And one day I said, you should consider building commercial tracks, and I don't know. A few months later, he's built his first commercial track, and it's out there and well received and nice construction and workmanship. And then eventually, the local raceway there in Fort Wayne bought an Ogilvy Orange and replaced their American Orange.
Right.
And then, the boom of slot car racing boom of 91, 92 came, and, you've got Ogilvy building tracks. You got Chris Dadds building tracks. You got Ed and Carol Tunkel building tracks. Damon Dupron. Do you know Damon Dupron? Because he was down from your area.
Yeah, he's from.
Okay.
I used to race with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was building tracks, and he actually he put a new top on the American King at Tom Thumb, and the elliptical routed it and all that stuff. And Damon was, I think, in time was more of a track refurber than a track builder.
Yeah, I know he built some there in North Carolina too.
Okay, and then John Ford started the American tracks, and Haase was with him for a while, and then he wasn't. And John Ford built a lot of tracks too in that time frame. So there's probably a few other track builders. Again, we can do more in depth on this at a later show, but there was several track owners in the early '90s and up until the mid '90s that built a lot of raceways during that big boom we had. And it was kind of funny because for a long time when it came to the USRA Nats, if you didn't have a Haase King, you weren't getting the Nats. And then it slowly kind of went to, Ogilvy. They first had their first Nats on an Ogilvy King, I think in '93 when we went to Reseda, California. And that was a quote-unquote punch bowl King where it was more swoopy and the turns were a little more radius than what had been done in the past. And if I remember right, the first punch bowl Ogilvy King track that was built was in Chicago, and Jerry Coolidge wound up having that track for a while in his raceway, and that track currently is in Fort Wayne, Indiana at Real Speed Raceway. So that's really the first punch bowl King that was built.
The theory of the punch bowls back then was to use banking.
Yes.
Basically to create speed.
Right.
Rather than geometry.
Right. And then
right now.
Yeah, those tracks were, and then okay, so like I said, the first punch bowl went to Chicago. The second punch bowl went out to Reseda, which we had the 93 USRA Wing Car Nats on. And I don't know how many more punch bowl Kings Ogilvy built. And then P.A. Watson's track is the ultimate punch bowl track. That thing to me, that thing is like a roller coaster. I mean, that's
you have to look up you have to use a mirror on the ceiling to see.
Yeah, the Dead Man on Red or something.
Yeah.
So I never had the pleasure of running on that track. I've seen pictures of it, but that's the extreme punch bowl track. And then after that, it went to more laid down turns and bigger radiuses. And at some point, I'm thinking late '90s, early 2000s or so, Ogilvy said they weren't going to build any more punch bowl tracks. So that opened the door for Gary Girding. And Gary Girding's probably the guy who played more with geometry than banking, in my opinion.
Right.
And, he started with Girding 1, and, now they're up to Girding 22 or
20-something now, yeah.
Yeah. If
Tracy has 21.
Yeah, so I think that's the last King that he has built. So, but no two Girding Kings are the same. They're all different in some way or another. And
right.
I can remember running on the first one that was down at Bedford, Indiana. You got to go through Bloomington to get there. And it was just amazing. And, Then I guess the race place down in North Carolina got one. They actually had two because there was a problem with the second one. And like Mark Green, he just picked up the Girding King that was at Mimi's, and I think that's number 7 or 8 or something, somewhere in there. So yeah, so there's a little
and over time, people started saying, "Well, I want the king track, but I don't want a punch ball."
Yeah, because like
Marquito, for example,
Mark's Model World is not. I don't know what you call it. It's a driver's king for sure, but it's
a modern, beautiful, brand new, state of the art girding king track, and
it came out way faster than they thought it was going to. But it's the surface on that thing is what makes that track so fast. But the Dead Man is the only kind of, in my opinion, slow part of the track.
Yeah.
It's not a punch bowl, but it's a micro blip bowl.
Right.
Sure,
Right.
So, even though it was kind of, I guess we could say Girding built what Mark wanted, but it's still way faster than the early Girding tracks, which would be a little more banked and a little more radius here and there. So it'd be really cool to have them all in one building and go from one track to the next track to the next track. And
right.
Because like when you look at the track at Tri-State and you look at the track at Rogers, I think they're like number 13 and 14. They're pretty similar, but they're still way different.
Oh yeah, by far.
Still way different.
I think Tri-State is a lot more banking everywhere than Rogers.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. It's kind of funny because there's parts, there's sections of the track at on the Tri-State track which are faster than the Mid-America track, and then vice versa. Like, for example, Mid-America has probably the faster, more punch top turn than Tri-State.
I agree, yeah.
Tri-State probably has the better finger. Tri-State probably has the better 90.
I agree there, yeah.
So, yeah, it's one track's kind of better in one way than the other. They're both good tracks, but they just race so much different. So there's your little bit of history on slot car tracks. So where is that track that you started racing on? Isn't it in storage right now?
Yeah, it's actually in storage, yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys had an old American Royal that you raced on for a long time down that way, didn't you?
Yeah, and as far as I know, they replaced the Royal with an orange, and as far as I know, both tracks are still in storage too.
Oh, wow.
Sold.
Okay. And then, when the 1990 USRA Nats was down there at Georgia Hobby Center, they had the Purple Mile, and then they had an American Black Regal that we raced Eurosports on. And, I think both those tracks were lost in water-type damage. And, that's another thing, too, like, because we were talking about that when I was out at Hobby or Modelville. I raced on the Atlanta track, and I don't really remember a lot about it, but it was still different than the track at Hobbyville, or Modelville, Hobbyville, Modelville. But the Modelville track is like the prototype track. And that's the thing about American tracks. I can't really say that over all the years, all the different American Kings I ran, and I can't really say that you could see a change in the way that they, maybe tweaked on things after they made the first few.
Right.
I can't really say that about Kings or Oranges, but the Purple Mile, yeah, I can. There was some changes, just minor stuff, but
right.
Yeah, because I had actually forgot how tough coming out from under the bridge on a purple really is. Until I went to to Monoville. But I remember it being that difficult when we were down in Georgia.
Right.
It seemed like that 90 was way, and it seemed like that 90, like when you race on the purple at Monoville, it seems like there's a big blind spot coming out from underneath the bridge. I don't remember that on the Purple Mile in Atlanta. It just seems like maybe the cars came out 6 inches further and then turned to where you could see the cars come out, and then you could see the turn. Where Monoville, it's like
nobody knows what happened to that track that was here. Nobody knows.
Well, I believe it was water damaged, and it wound up going to the landfill.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, last I talked to the guy who ran the raceway, I'm pretty sure he had been looking for it, but he had no idea what happened to it.
Well, when we were at the Cozine race down there at Peachtree City, the first one 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Name escapes me, but the guy that owned it was there at that race, and
Tim Ferguson.
Yeah, Tim Ferguson, and I'm pretty sure.
Did he say he got water damage?
I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
Okay.
So I'm sure someone will write us and tell us differently if that's different.
Right.
So yeah. So anyway, yeah. But I've ran laps or raced on every American made except the Emperor. And the only Emperor that's known in existence at this time would be in Uncle Buzzy's basement in New York. Right. Because he got one of the 4. That's another thing with our new graphics thing. I can put all the pictures of these tracks up when we talk about it.
Yeah, that poster kind of goes around Facebook's where it shows like all the different layouts on one thing.
That's John Ford's layout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool layout.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of tracks on there that, when the modern builders got into it, they came out a lot of different designs, and there's so many one-off tracks out there especially when you get into road courses
or home tracks and
right.
stuff like that. Yeah,
right. So, in my time, I think the 3 most popular tracks would be Kings Hill Climbs and Orange Tracks.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So, over the time, and I wish someone had a really nice orange track set up, a restored orange, because I ran a bazillion laps on orange tracks in a certain period of time. And
yeah, I mean, I'd like to race on orange again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Oh, they had one down at the Viper Pit. It was a pretty short one though, no S's.
Yeah, but it's not an American orange.
No.
Yeah. See, an orange, to me, an orange, because they used to have one down in Indy, they had an orange with no S's. Well, maybe it had a little wiggle in it, but without the S's, it's just not an orange.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So, yeah. And Jeff Bechtel, he has a American Regal in storage too.
Okay.
From when he had his Mid-America Raceway Open over by Springfield, Illinois. It'd be cool to get that, because I haven't ran on a flat one in years either. So that would be, down the donut on the flat one again would be kind of cool too. So, but we should be fortunate.
Well, I mean, maybe some of these tracks will start popping back up. I mean, now that we've kind of had this, seems like this
a bit of resurgence.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it was funny because it was kind of funny because when they were talking about that Punch Bowl King track for sale in North Carolina, about the time that was set up, there was probably 20 different raceways in North Carolina. I mean, there was a ton of raceways down there at one time. So those days are gone. Hopefully they come back. Tennessee, like we talked about Tennessee, it's kind of the hot spot right now. A lot of tracks opening recently.
Yeah.
In Ohio, there's I don't know 8 or 9 raceways that have been open for a long time too.
Yeah.
So in Indiana we have 4, which that's that's probably the most we've had in a long, long time to have 4 raceways. Actually, there's kind of 5. One's kind of a club, but so it is what it is. I think when you look around and you research it, there's a lot of tracks around.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's more tracks open and running that nobody knows of. I
Right.
mean, than we think there are.
Right. Yeah,
Guaranteed.
because a couple weeks ago they posted that there was a track in a mall in Massachusetts or somewhere that apparently had been open for a while. No one really knew about it, and then boom, it got posted, and
Right.
so and
Well, and a lot of these tracks are in small towns where they're either like not on Facebook or not on
right,
Slotlog, or they are, but they don't follow like a lot of the mainstream stuff, so nobody
right,
gets lost.
right. And well, then you got like Arkansas we talked about last week. I mean, there's
Right.
started with one raceway a few months ago, and now we're getting up to 4 or 5 raceways.
Right.
So yeah, it maybe a little mini boom. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully so. Definitely.
So
Okay.
okay,
What,
moving right along.
you got anything else this week or what?
No, I can't really think of anything else. I mean, it's there's really no races coming up this weekend other than the only thing I know in my area is they're having the 7th annual Dirt Late Model Christmas race at Fast Alley Raceway in Fremont, which is owned by Denny Murray, super nice guy, and he's got a little 6-lane flat oval. That thing can't be much more than about, I don't know, 25 feet in lap length on red or something.
Right.
And they're having their 7th annual Dirt Late Model race this weekend. So, as far as series go, there's really nothing going on this weekend, and
Yeah, with Christmas and New Year's right here, it's pretty quiet.
yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be a quiet week or two coming up, and I know that Great Lakes Retro will be at Thaser Raceway on the 30th of December, which is not this Saturday, the following Saturday. So, and there might be a few other races out there. We'll see what we have and we'll announce them next week. We will be here next week.
We will.
We will.
Hopefully, we'll have a good guest on too.
Yeah. Yeah. Our guest. Yeah, our guest. I don't know. Not his fault, but we just didn't make connection for this week, and we said he'd be here, but he's not. So, I think I got on that ball a little late in the game. So,
It's always Ron's fault.
always my fault. So what's going to be your next race, Ralph?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Could be the FNRS race, I guess.
Yeah. You said FNRS. Now everybody's going to say, "Where's the schedule?"
Where's the schedule? Yeah.
Where's the schedule? Oh, it's on the desk next to the how-to video pile.
That's right. Well, the schedule gets worked on a lot more than the how-to video.
And hopefully next week, maybe we'll have at least one new how-to video.
Yeah.
I was going to work on something this weekend.
And I mean, we worked on the schedule. We were talking about that yesterday, and it's just like, I mean, it's not as easy as everyone thinks.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
right. Location.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many tracks that want to race, and we would like to go someplace new, but I mean, it's really hard to, because you just don't know if you take that gamble if anybody's going to go or not, because
it goes back.
They're in, or they're not racing our rules, or they don't have local racers, or
right.
not,
Yep.
So
it goes back to everybody wants a race, but we've got to have a local program first too. So there you have it.
Yeah. So okay. Well,
that's kind of all I got.
That's about all I got too.
I got one more thing for you.
Oh God.
Because it is a major award, Ralph.
A major award.
The old leg lamp.
Oh, it's so funny. Actually, last week that popped up on my Facebook timeline as a memory of when me, you, and Jay went to the Christmas Story house. That came up last week.
Yeah.
On my thing. I was looking at that. That was funny.
So I thought, well, being as it's Christmas, I should probably get the major award out.
Leg lamp. Yeah, you got to.
Little mini leg lamp.
So.
It's funny. I because we were there, I bought two, and I gave one to my neighbor at the restaurant for them to put up in the restaurant, at Christmas time, and the first year they didn't put it up. They just kind of like thought, nah, we don't want that in here. So I don't know if they felt bad because I gave them that as a gift and they didn't put it up, but they put it up, I guess, year before last. Now they wish they were selling those lamps because everybody wants to buy one.
Right.
Do you have those lamps? I want to buy that lamp. I told them, I said, they should contact the place and see if they can get a deal on them because they could probably sell, 20, 30 of them in the month of December alone over there. So,
yeah. So I guess I'll give that story real quick. So we were in Akron at Route 93, which we talked about earlier on the show with our American King track.
December 2012.
Yes. So Ron.
5 years ago.
Huh?
5 years ago.
So Ron, Jay Kissling, and myself, we decided we were going to go visit. Almost everyone has seen the movie The Christmas Story. Well, most of that was filmed over there in the Akron, Cleveland area. I forget what was the name of the town we were in. Was
Cleveland.
It
Yeah.
Okay, so it was filmed in Cleveland, and the house that the movie's filmed in is still there, and it's been like completely restored. And when you walk in, it's like walking into the movie set.
Right.
So, you pay whatever, $20 or whatever, and you tour the house, and they let you take pictures in all the rooms, and they have a big gift shop and everything like that. And so we just had a fun little side trip one day before we raced, and it was a lot of fun. It was a cool day.
Yep. So like the guy, because the guy that, a little more on the story, the guy that owns the house, after the movie came out, this guy started making leg lamps and selling them on eBay, and it blew up into this big business thing. So,
right. I forgot about this part. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just selling thousands and thousands of leg lamps. And he makes all this money, and then that house was put up for sale on eBay. Whoever owned the house, across from the house, the way the house sits on this intersection, it's like three streets kind of come together as a Y. There was a bar there, and the guy that owned the bar owned the house that they filmed in or used.
Right.
So anyway, they filmed the house. They rented the house to film in, basically. The movie company did. The guy then turns the house into a rental house. It kind of gets all trashed out over the years. It's not in the best neighborhood in Cleveland. So the guy starts making the leg lamps, makes all this money, and sees the house for sale on eBay, and he decides, I want to buy the house and restore it. So to make a long story short, over the years, he's kind of bought up the whole damn block there of all the houses, and the house across the street became the gift shop, and the other house across the street became offices or something. I mean, it's a big kind of little empire there, but
right, yeah.
So if you're ever in the Cleveland area, I mean, it's a really cool thing to go visit and see. And if you're a fan of the movie, you learn a lot about the background of the movie. I mean, like a lot of people think that a Triple Dog Dare scene was filmed in Cleveland. That was actually filmed in Canada. And so was the restaurant scene where the
yeah, a lot of it was filmed in Canada.
A lot of it was filmed in Canada. A lot of it was filmed in Cleveland.
Department store or something, right?
Yeah, in the old Dillard's department store. Yeah. And it's really cool. And I think the most interesting, weird fact of the whole movie thing is they originally had picked Jack Nicholson to play the father, Ralph's father, in the movie. So just think how that movie would have changed with Jack Nicholson as the father.
Yeah. That
would be a totally different movie. So, yeah, it was kind of cool. It was, fun times, and, it was something, Jay got a big kick out of and stuff. So,
right.
Because I think he had just recovered from his first round cancer. It was on the upswing. So
Yeah, I'll never forget. He grabbed the BB gun. He's like, Ralphie, I'm going to shoot your eye out.
and he also licked it. He also took a lick of the soap too.
That's right. Yeah.
When I climbed under the sink.
The sink. Yeah.
So.
The only thing that looked a little different, I think I remember, was the yard or something, maybe.
Yes, the backyard did not have the swing set, I think, and didn't have the fence behind it like in the movie.
Yeah.
It was more. It looked more like a park now than it did in the movie, where it looked more like a backyard.
Yeah, and it's like, and all the neighbors are like raking in cash from
parking,
charging people to park in their lawns, their driveways. I mean, yeah,
we parked in the guy's front yard for $6.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It's just.
And then the tour buses come in. Yep, tour buses came in and parked on the street, and
yeah,
it's quite a busy place. I would suggest if you go early in the morning.
Yeah.
But we went.
I would assume they're open all year long, but
they are 24 hours. Because remember, I asked the lady,
yeah,
are they busier in the winter than the summer? And she says, no, actually, we're kind of busier in the summertime, which
surprised me because it's a
movie. Who wants to go see The Christmas Story? And
yeah, we went in the winter. I'm glad we went in winter though.
Yeah, because we had some snow there and stuff.
Yeah. So
that was awesome. Yeah, there's a show.
It was a major award.
It was a major award for Gigli. For Gigli. So yeah.
So what's the secret word of the show?
I think it'll be henchman.
Henchman. Okay.
Not to be confused with henchman driving uniforms, but henchman.
Okay. I got you.
So.
All right.
So everybody have a happy and very merry Christmas.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.